Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to this cover reveal. So, when I wrote my last newsletter, I had said that this is really one of the moments that you can see that, in weddings these days, you have something called, mehendi and sangeet. So you will see that even for many of those Bengali weddings, now you'll land up seeing, Sangeet and Mehendi. So the book cover reveal is something to that effect. So I'm going to, now start by inviting my friends who are going to be there with me, for the cover reveal. And as promised, dot at 5:30, we are going to introduce to you. So I'm going to start first with David Ruskina. Uh, so David Ruskina is the chairman and managing director of Exim Bank, and more importantly, David is a classmate of mine from XLRI. But today he is here in the capacity of a writer. So David, as you will discover, writes some of the most fascinating book reviews, and I've invited him so that he writes nice book reviews about my own book. So that's David there for you. So David, welcome to the program. Um, and with me is a person you would have seen very active on Twitter. He goes by the name Madversity on Twitter. Narayan Madhavan, my classmate from Sri Ram College of Commerce. So
Hi.
we,
Hi.
Madhavan is a senior journalist. He is also a political commentator, writes about a lot of things, is an incorrigible punster. And,
Mhm.
I wanted both of them to come and share a little bit about, their opinion about the book first. And if, I'm going to request both of them if they can just share the cover. Here is the cover reveal. So this is the cover.
Okay, let's all show it together. Dreamers and Unicorn. It's got a nice purple design. Uh, Purple is a spiritually uplifting color, actually, I'm told.
Perfect. All
Uh,
right. We'll believe you on that. Thank you so much. So that's the cover. And, I'm going to start by sort of asking you for, I'm going to ask you, Madhvan, what do
mhm.
you think are some of the things that, if you had a chance to go through the book, what are some of the things that jumped out at you? Any quick responses?
Mhm. Well, plenty to say there, Abhijit. First of all, I think the problem with being on air with you is that it still feels like we are 17 years old. And, therefore, I have to check myself from feeling like this is the college cafe or canteen. But having said that, let me just, by way of introduction to my followers on Twitter, some of you may not know you, although you are quite famous in your own right. Is that Abhijit Bhaduri was with me at Sri Ram College of Commerce. Then when I went to Times of India as a trainee, he went to Hindustan Unilever, or what was then called Hindustan Lever, as an intern. But he's been to absolute brand name places like, you know, Colgate Palmolive. I once had my HR head at Reuters, where I used to work, coming up and saying, Bhaduri, as if like, do you know Shah Rukh Khan or something? Which I realized he was in the HR business. So then he's been to Microsoft, PepsiCo, Colgate, Tata Steel. You have it. And I also know secrets like he used to play the Hawaiian guitar, and we used to have pun matches, what used to call pun ping pong. So from there, he has come a long way. And Abhijit, it was lovely bumping into you again after 25, 30 years when you had gone to the US in a bookshop in Bangalore, where I found him. He had written a novel called Mediocre but
Mediocre,
Arrogant, short for MBA. And then he wrote another one called Married, what is that? What
but
was the second
available.
MBA? Sorry?
Married but available. That was the other
Married
one.
but Available. That was in second MBA. So he's written novels. And Abhijit, very quickly, let's have a couple of other names of your books before we go to the one, so that we set the context of how we arrived at these dreamers and unicorns.
Yes,
HR.
I wrote two works of which are non-fiction works. One is called "Don't Hire the Best," which is about how personality is a better predictor of success in hiring. And then, about 4 years back, I wrote a Digital Tsunami, which was
Mm,
really about, at that point of time, what seemed very novel about how digital technology was changing the world. So it was really that.
mm.
And then, of course, Dreamers and Unicorns, which is written during COVID, as they said that during COVID, a lot of productivity has gone up, birth rates are high, have gone up, divorce rates have gone up, and so has the writing. So this is
Very,
what it
very, very, very interesting, Abhijit, because that's precisely how, as a journalist, I always have this secret that we have to assume that the audience doesn't know much, about you, even if you're famous, because you have to, especially at Reuters, we were told that context is more important than content. And today, context is extremely vital because the interesting thing is the digital tsunami and the don't hire the best before that, and now Dreamers and Unicorns are part of the global evolution of business culture. And it also parallels the evolution that I have gone through in my career and Abhijit has gone through, and I presume very much David's career as well. The nature of global trade has changed from products to services, from simple export import to globalization as a network of compact. And then we also have the context in which technology is disrupting everything. And I personally remember 1996 or so when internet arrived in India, and I smelt disruption. But whatever disruption that followed has been exceeding my expectations of what I already imagined to be major disruption. So that is very
I
important
think
because
there's a
this
bit of
book
a
is very important.
lag
This,
in what.
if you what surprised me about this book, because it didn't surprise me by way of information, I must say, because I've been a journalist covering pretty much the both the demand and supply side of, if I may say so, being an economic journalist, demand and supply of these whole disruption business. Okay, but what I want to go back to college days when Abhijit and I were also officially studying Marxism without being called Marxists, which is fine. Which is that, social patterns are also affected by technology and business and economics, which is something that many people forget. And that also affects human relationships, the size of companies, the size of corporations. So, if you want it in one sentence, the relevance of this book is the amazing way in it which it illustrates. This sounds like a plug for Abhijit, but whatever I have written in so many stories or made in casual observations have been captured well in a way that is substantiatable for those who may not have actually had the occasion to, or the luxury or the need to have a ringside view of the changes that have been disrupting the world. So you have examples from Africa, Philippines, India, various industries, all of which go into summing up what I, thanks to what has been covered in the book, called the Pesto VUCA universe. I call it Pesto VUCA because VUCA is a well-known word. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, which has been around with us for 20 years. It's part of the whole globalization baggage, which itself you can say roughly goes back to the 1980s when the Japanese made a big impact on the global economy, and then the Chinese arrived, and globalization became something more than what used to be simply called foreign trade. Okay, from trade. Now, what uh, this book I really enjoyed was as a journalist, I love takeaways that sum up the context well. So this whole business of political, economic, social, technological, and other changes, pesto, is what is causing what I call a double VUCA, and COVID-19, of which there is a substantial element in this book, makes it extremely relevant for two reasons. One is from a point of view of the fact that we are living through COVID-19, which means in terms of information and context in the current year, it is important in whether the recovery is V-shaped, what it means. But there is much more to this. I read COVID-19 and the reference to it in this book extensively as a metaphor for what I call double disruption, which means we already knew technological changes of every kind, from cloud computing to artificial intelligence, is disrupting many careers. That's a given. We've been living with it for 20 years. But COVID-19, the way it had a black swan effect on us, shows that this is not just about COVID-19. We might yet get a vaccine by in 6 months from now, and we might even forget COVID-19 18 months from now. But the idea of a major, incredible disruption is not going away. And how you navigate such an incredible, chaotic scenario is what this book is all about. Okay. Now, so
Thanks.
let me complete
Yes.
by saying, I never complete a discussion with Abhijit Bhaduri without taking a crack at him. And then I say that we knew about Kesto Mukherjee, now we know about Pesto Bhaduri. Okay, from a different thing. And the other thing I find is that I like the way the book is structured. It's called How Leadership, Talent, Culture, and are the New Growth Drivers. As a journalist, I feel it's very readable. Lots of little nuggets. You can even read it like a dictionary. You can pick it up at random if you're already, because that's one of the interesting things about uncertainty. That you have to even drop the linearity in information absorption, because you have to make sense in your head. It's not about whether you read the first page first or the last page last. It's about how you make sense of it all. So that's so reading the book and the way you read it could be part of the VUCA exercise. The only thing that hasn't changed, I would say, the first chapter is called Before Corona, BC, and After Disaster, AD, which is sums up the context in which we're talking. And I only couldn't resist joking the fact that one thing that hasn't changed since Abhijit and I were students in the college canteen to now is that we still seem to be hearing about a lot of BCs around us in conversations, Abhijit, being surrounded by Punjabis, as it were. So over to you. I mean, I love the book. There's so much in it, but I obviously haven't read it cover to cover. I should read it. There are lovely illustrations, because Abhijit always used to draw lovely cartoons. I remember even before internet, he even sent me a postcard from his internee days when I was in college into my Bombay trainee address with cartoons in him. He used to send cartoons with postcards. Now he still draws cartoons. So the Alice in Wonderland thing. What is the use of a book if it doesn't have pictures? Is what Alice in Wonderland says. And I think Abhijit in Wonderland knows that trick of communication, that you have to be as visual, as brief, as beautiful as possible. There's a hell of a lot of stuff in this book about communication, because in talent, teamwork, communication is extremely important. I think I've said enough. Okay.
Perfect. David, what are some of the things that you would like to just highlight about? What did you like about the book, or what did you not like about the book? Even that's fine. So,
well, one is what Madhavan just said, in fact, communication. I still remember when I came to Excel in 1982. I suspect some of the people on this call weren't born at that point of time, or perhaps were wearing nappies. But we all came from our individual institutions, and we thought we were major cats. We got into Excel, etc. And then you meet some other people, and you are stunned. And Abby was one of them, because I thought I was a pretty good communicator. And then I come and see this guy, and he is so well read. He's got this gift of expression, which I can't even come close to matching. So it was a stunning moment when I met Abby and some others like him in Excel. And this book carries that through. We often think that communication is saying a lot of nice things and maybe using great language and poetic, but we often forget that it is getting the point through to the other person. It's a two-way process. It's not just pushing forward, but the other person receiving it. And the way you've written this book, Abby, it's very easy to understand. You have not tried to be cute on kind of large words or poetic expression. You're trying to get a message across, and you're using little case studies or nuggets, as Madhavan said, to make the point very, very clear. I found that extremely helpful, because in this rushed age, we don't really have the time to sit and curl up in a corner with a book over a period of time. You're going to grab it in bits, grab it in bits, grab it in bits, and you've got to get what you can. So that makes it very good for a person on the go to quickly understand the nugget and then dwell on it later. The second point I thought I liked was the universality. Coming from EXIM, we work and we deal with countries across the world. You deal with sophisticated people in the United States, you deal with not so sophisticated people in the developing world. And what I liked was the universality of the examples that you used and the universality of the lessons. Anybody in any country, yes, of course, they've got to know English unless you're going to translate it into Swahili. I hope you do that at some point of time. But anybody in
Kenya do that, Abhijit. Abhijit, Kenya do that.
it, it was just a matter of time before he let loose.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I
seriously,
do.
I think
I
just about
have,
anybody in the world would
Yeah.
anybody in the world could really read this with profit and understand what was being said very, very clearly. If I have only one complaint, and I think Madhavan already hinted at it, I would have loved to see a lot more of Abhijit's own cartoons in it. He's an amazing artist. He has the ability to capture expression, to capture a incident and bring it forward. And I think, Abby, if you'd put some of your own cartoons
Oh,
in this, that would have been the icing on the cake.
David, I must say that he pays so much attention to the way he draws cartoons that he's not a lax man. Okay, all
so
right.
I'm deeply
I should draw
constrained
it.
by
Draw a
the
Lakshman.
the fact that
I
I'm
should
the
draw a
public
Lakshman
forum.
Rekha on my puns on cartoons now. Okay. Mm, mm. All right. Okay.
Uh,
I think seriously,
so
it's a
you know
very good book.
what,
The title is a bit misleading, I must say. Dreamers and Unicorns, lovely romantic title in the context of startups and youngsters and all. So it's a very appropriate title. But this book is as much about dealing with. There are ways of looking at it. One is to say dreamers should get a reality check, and this book is that reality check we speak of. So that I just coined some very interesting expression today. I called it the aptitude to attitude ratio, which is that aptitude is what you show in work, to get things done. So this book has so much of disruption that it's like a gym workout for the mind and the attitude, so that you will not show any attitude of fear or irrational exuberance when it comes to, you will not be surprised. You are prepared to be surprised so much that you won't be surprised. And that improves your aptitude to attitude ratio. That's what I thought was a wonderful takeaway of describing this. It kind of prepares you for VUCA and pesto very well. Mm.
so I wanted to also sort of say that a lot of us always want to write better, and David, you do some lovely book reviews. When you write a book, what are some of the things that you keep in mind when you write the reviews? What's your process like? How long do you take to write a book? Tell us a little about that.
Well, book reviews is just one of the things, but to my mind, my life is made up of writing. I have credit proposals to my board of directors, I have policy proposals to the board, to the government, etc. So I'm always dealing with a different audience. I have to put myself in their shoes. So when I'm writing a book review, the first thing which comes to my mind is that who is the person I'm writing it for? Are they aware of the subject? Are they aware of the author? What is their area of interest? Because otherwise, I've got basically maybe 30 seconds to catch their interest. If I don't catch it in that 30 seconds, they're on to the next, and then it doesn't matter what I write. So
Wow.
I try to figure out who am I talking to, and based on that, on the answer to that, I will then pitch the review at that level. Am I trying to be funny because the person there wants something like that, or is it that they're looking for an explanation? That's my real startup. And I'd like to also highlight a couple of things. So this is something I particularly liked about the book, because sometimes just that nugget can make all the difference for somebody who's either deciding should I read it or not read it. These two, I think, are the core points of where I go from.
Amazed, David, because I expected the journalist to say that, and many journalists don't follow that rule that you do. Given your title as an Exim Bank managing director, I'm deeply impressed, because knowing your audience and being getting, in the news agency business where I spent a long time, there used to be in an Associated Press, apparently the editors have something called the so what graph, so what paragraph, which means that you're assuming that the editors who represent the readers say, so what? So you have to be prepared for that so what, which is a very important step in writing, especially to us. But having said that, I must say, I was thinking about, Abhijit has written 5 books and you've written God knows how many reviews. I have written lots and lots of news stories and articles, but I have yet to publish a book. I've just finished translating a Tamil novel into English, which will be published. And I realized that book writing or any writing is also like running. You can run a 100 meters dash. You can run a marathon. You can run an 800 meters. Each one has its own discipline. You cannot call Usain Bolt and say, come on, please run the Boston Marathon also. You're a runner, yeah. No, it doesn't work like that. Writing a book writing a tweet and writing a book review. Each has its own discipline, and each has a unique style. But I must,
Mehdi, is writing on Twitter tougher than writing, let's say, a news article? Or would you say that?
Yes and no. I mean, I have written news articles. I keep joking that Twitter gave me 140 characters, but I spent 12 years at Reuters where I was asked to write 50 character headlines for all the agency discipline news. So when 140 happened, it looked like a bigger racetrack for me because I had already trained myself in 50 characters. But then I developed it because I can hold a separate webinar on Twitter writing. So compression of language and an assumption that nobody really cares about you. In fact, I used to tell my team in Hindustan Times, the first thing you learn about in writing, if you believe in communication, is 3 magic words. Nobody loves you. So you have to make them love you. And this is one way of starting the point. And the rest is a matter of detail in terms of how you make them love you by understanding them better, feeling better what you're writing. All this is central to whether you're writing a book or a book review or a tweet. But you have to understand compression of language, importance of time. These are 2 things. But I must throw a question at Abhijit now. Abhijit, your book is so well researched. How is I used to read these excellent book series called the Paris Review Writers at Work, which used to talk to writers about their writing process, And I must ask Abhijit, how do you do the research and how do you keep track of all the research you do? Which is incredible because you're prolific and it's very rich. So, in fact, the real secret sauce is we all know VUCA is happening, but to substantiate it and come up with case studies on or people you can follow, there's a lot of good research. So tell me, Abhijit, how do you do the research? And because that is something that I wish I could do because I always write between 400 and 4,000 words. You've written something like what, 100,000 words in this. So, there's a different discipline.
So I think, a lot of it comes from the consulting work that I've been doing with organizations. So they've all been, different kinds of organizations in the last 4 years, having had the opportunity to work with startups, which I call dreamers, or let's say those which are, which are at the national level. I am calling them unicorns. And unicorns, of course, you usually say if you have $1 billion valuation, then it's a unicorn, but it need not be. It's sometimes, there are companies which are not planning to go beyond India ever, and yet there are unicorns and they are really doing very well. So there are many interesting kinds. The third is, the market shapers, which are some of the companies which have really work on a pull model. They don't need to sell anything anymore. People want that. For example, you have a company like Netflix. It is really something that everybody wants to, use across 190 countries that they operate in. So when you read about that, I mean, somewhere in my mind, I used to see those patterns. So I would, compile information about a dreamer, a unicorn, a market shaper. The fourth category of incumbents actually was a byproduct that, if you categorize the world into these 3 dreamers, unicorns, and market shapers, the rest are, and India has had a long history of very, very large number of family-owned organizations where at one point of time used to be really phenomenal, which have become, less prominent today. So those are some of the things that when you observe, you kind of see why is it like that. And then I, discovered another interesting thing when I spoke to people. The principles of success that govern, growth from an organization moving from, say, dreamer to unicorn to market shaper is pretty much also the same as what governs success for individuals. I don't know, David, if you would agree with that idea that the principle is the same, that, you kind of really have to have a product market fit. In case of an individual, it is that you must know which field you can shine in, because I think Usain Bolt would make a terrible journalist, or a journalist would make a terrible swimmer. So finding that product market fit is as relevant for an individual in terms of your
But
career
Abhijit,
success.
I want to hold you there because as a journalist, I'm always tempted to get a bit provocative, in the sense that there are 2 catchwords that are coming in here. One is to the ikigai business, like doing what you enjoy and doing it well and earning a living. But the marketplace doesn't always allow you that luxury, and therefore you have to go into the other fashionable word, which is pivoting. Whether you're a startup or you're a individual, your career involves also adjustment. You can't be very romantic, because being the trouble with ikigai is that it's very self-indulgent. It's what I love and what gives me success. But the personality has to be attuned to the market, and to that extent, you have to be pivoting. And I keep joking that pivoting is just a fashionable Silicon Valley word for jugaad, which is our own way of innovative thing. So you have to find that a balance so that your short-term pivoting doesn't affect your long-term ikigai or your goals. That is something I think that kind of
In the book,
sets you.
actually, I've talked about discovering your dark chocolate, which is
Yes.
which is that when you start your in my case, I have a very sweet tooth, but I think what happens is when you start your career, you potentially start trying out many different things. So there is soup, there is dessert, there is this and that. I mean, there's the main course, all that is there. So you go past all of that, and then suddenly you come to the dessert section, and suddenly when you have that, you seem to enjoy it a lot more. And then you kind of hover around that section for a little bit more, and one day when you have the chocolate, you say that, my God, this is, I think, even better than what I had the last time in the dessert. And then when you discover dark chocolate, that's really the time when you say, okay, now I know what I really want to eat for the rest of my life.
Yeah, dark chocolate is
Career,
an excellent metaphor. Yeah, you want to be,
yeah. So,
yeah,
so
like I'm saying, you can have fun without being frivolous, and that's dark chocolate. Mhm.
that's dark chocolate. So
Yeah.
yeah, David. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, it ties in also with your S curves, Abby, because I was just thinking about what you said when you got these, your early career stage, then your mid career, and then towards the end of it, because you brought that out very well, that in earlier career it's learning which matters. You've got to be flexible at that point of time. And I often tell my youngsters in the bank, because they want the glamour areas, they want to be in X area because that is perceived to be glamour. And I say, no, that you're wrong. At that age you have to be in the area where you will learn the most. You are literally a sponge at that point of time.
Let
Your
me
objective should be, I want to have a good boss, because if I've got a boss who knows his or her stuff and is willing to teach, then it doesn't matter which area I am, I will learn what that area is, and I can then build on that. And I think
absolutely.
that comes out very well in your book, because you said build that excellence in that area, you can then move on. Then
I
in mid career, yes, you have the
And
chance to
I think, yeah,
diversify. Uh,
I can relate to it. I can relate to it because for the first 7 years of my career, for a variety of reasons, including low growth industry, I was in a pretty background desk job. I spent so much time reading and writing and studying those days that's what gave me the practice to do what I did later. So you can't stick a byline on what you do and say, wow, great writing, without throwing a lot of this. But this is my chance to actually throw a question at David, because Abhijit and I will go on and on about various things. David, I'm very tempted to ask: is there a template for? I haven't written too many book reviews. I have actually. I even reviewed for Hindustan Times the book called "Employee First, Employers Later" or something, which was written by Vineet Nair of HCL. And that book I was reminded of while going through Dreamers and Unicorn, because this whole business of putting employees first and talent first has been around, and Abhijit has been a leading evangelist on that. But I'm tempted to ask on book reviews, is there a template you have? Because there's always this, I have, as a cheat sheet Kunji lover, I always believe that reading a good book review is often a good proxy for reading the book itself, which is not good news for Abhijit, if you ask me. I want people to buy this book and read it from back cover to front cover. But, what's a template for writing a book review, David?
I don't think I have a template, Maddie, because to me, a book is a love affair. I love books. I can spend all day reading books. I have no interest in television. I hardly watch movies. I'm a little bit into music. For me, books are my life.
Wow.
Uh, if ever a day comes when I'm abandoned on a desert island, all I need is my Kindle, because unfortunately I've shifted to E now. I don't like it, but I don't have space for
Well,
my
you've
physical
given me
books.
a complex. I've stopped reading. I know writers are giving me books and I read them very quickly, like the wine drinker sipping book. I said, Abhijit, I have to know. So I quickly read it, except that journalism has taught me how to read fast, or at
Right.
least to get the gist of it without having reading it. I don't know if it's good or bad. Sometimes it feels good, sometimes it feels bad that I can't savor
Yes.
the book.
Well,
But,
I would put it this way: I rarely read a book once. I think that's pretty rare. I at least twice is what I would
wow.
always do. It might sound
I
a little
must
bit
say a
strange.
big salute to you. You are, if we can exchange 50% of each other, I think we'll make excellent this thing. Anyway, but
Love to
Abhijit,
someday. So because
yeah,
I always find, on your first trip through, you're kind of sampling, you're surfing at the waves, you're getting the basics, but you're not appreciating the depths of it. The second
you're
time through, the language jumps out at you. You start thinking a little more about the kind of cases cited or the examples cited. Your mind is more attuned at that point of time. I mean, that's me.
I
Others may.
call it the three C's. The content, the context, and the communication have to go with each other. And I think you're heavily focused on the content.
Very
I I,
much.
I dare say, and I confess, I'm more focused on the context and the communication, which results in a loss of content sometimes. I'm fully aware of it, and being
Mm,
aware of it is one way of surviving my own buka in this business.
mm.
Abhijit, you have to say something. How do you communicate so well in terms of you sort of get all the three C's together, I must say, in that sense. Context
No,
and
I think
concept.
no, no, no. I kind of, I'm deeply aware that I am, sharing space with two writers who do a lot more writing than I do. But I
Go
think
away.
when I look at, I just
Yeah, no,
when I am out of work, I draw.
modesty doesn't suit you, Abhijit. Modesty doesn't suit you.
No, I draw.
You are horribly
More than writing,
prolific.
I think I draw.
Hmm.
No, no, I like to draw more than I write. And this book, sometimes when you write a book, you have to put in a lot more words. But I think I enjoy doing
No, you're
trying
as
to keep.
prolific as you're as prolific as Chetan Bhagat, but as deep as Tom Friedman. That's a great combination, Abhijit.
Wow, that's a nice combination.
So I don't know who's going to be more offended, Chetan Bhagat or Tom Friedman. I suspect both of them.
They'll both be asking for your autograph, Abby.
Yeah, no journalists.
If it
I
is an
mean,
autograph, that's fine. As long as they are not sort of going after me with a gun, then it's okay, safe.
oh,
So,
talking of
so,
guns, we should be watching the American elections with gun control at the center of a lot of the campaigns. I think good that we're revealing this cover right now, because in 8 hours from now we'll be overtaken by Joe Biden or Donald Trump, or both of them fighting each other. So
yeah,
I
so
think in
just
that sense,
I'm aware that we had budgeted for about 30 minutes of your time, and so before we close, I just want you to know that I'm going to be where I post the thing. I'm going to be sharing the pre-order link. The pre-order is available, so you can go onto Amazon and look for Dreamers and Unicorns. It's going to be available for pre-order. The book will be released on 16 November, which also happens to be my birthday. So I hope you will,
mm,
receive the
I
book
will.
in time. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. There are a whole bunch of comments. I can see there are 120 comments here.
Mm.
Wow.
I have not been able to sort of, look at any
Anything
one
we
of
can comment on? I love this interactivity, except that the paradox of mass interactive communication in the age of internet is that on the one hand, you love the interactivity. On the other hand, you value everybody's time and attention. So there's always this huge challenge on how do you walk the tightrope between, you know, uh, engaging and being accurate or precise in your communication.
Yeah, so I think there are comments here, and I'm just going to sort of periodically just click one or two of them and just see if we can see some of these comments. There are comments which are coming up, and I am just trying to see if I can. Hindi and Sangeet.
Somebody?
So you will see that even for many of
So
those
there are
Bengali weddings, now you'll land up seeing, Sangeet and Mendi. So the book cover reveal is some.
Okay. Well, we can see a lot there.
Did we lose Abby?
I think so, but I could see him live on LinkedIn, which is pretty strange. Yeah, he said something about Sangeet and Mehndi being a wonderful combination. I wonder if he's around there. What is this? We have suddenly This is like a murder mystery where the author disappears in the middle of a book discussion.
Yeah, or a marriage where the bride has vanished. The bride
Yeah,
has come back. Welcome back,
come back.
bride.
Abhijit, you had
No,
vanished for a while.
no, I was really trying to sort of go past my capability by trying to add the some of the comments, but I don't think I'm able to do that too well. I'm going to,
Some
respond to
time
all the
back,
comments
Abby,
which
there was
are there.
this movie called The Runaway Bride. So we were just wondering whether you were staging the runaway author.
Yeah, I
No,
think Abhijit, this is very interesting. Like I remember, I think there was this movie. There were two movies I saw. One is a George Clooney movie on money. I forget the name. The other was an old, I think, a TV movie called Network, in which in the climax people enter the studio. So I was wondering, we are discussing this unicorn book, and some old Lalaji who's sick of all this disruption decides that Abhijit is teaching all the wrong things to the young generation about careers. They should be taught to be obeying rules, listening to everybody, and just saying yes all the time. And then so he's angry with Abhijit and decides to kidnap the Vyuka author. And so then a bunch of his fans on LinkedIn decide to go and discover where he is, and that's the next Netflix original, Abhijit. So it's called the career trap. Mm, Can't hear you. I think
well,
somebody is.
just want to take a minute and say thank you to everyone. This has been really wonderful to be able to have both of you, two friends, coming over to join me for the book launch is, such an incredible feeling. Thank you so very much.
Yeah,
Once again,
Sam.
David.
Thanks so much. I mean, it's been wonderful talking to David, and the other person by default gets called Goliath. So except you, but he's a slayer, not the slave. Okay. So no, I'm just joking.
But
But
thank
it's
you very much indeed, Maddie.
yeah. I
Thank
must
you
say,
so much.
yeah. I think people should not confuse our fun and banter with the depth of research in this book. I would like anybody, especially those below the age of 35, to buy this, because it kind of takes a hell of it makes you, it might sound paradoxical. It makes you so confused that it makes you enlightened. And I often quote Tom Peters. So it's one of my favorite quotes I repeat often. He follows me on Twitter, by the way. It's an honor. And Tom Peters says, this is the age of epochal change. If you're not confused, you're not in touch. And this is one way of being understanding the Confucian Vyuka, so that you will be enlightened on the nature of that, so you know where you need to move and where you need to be quiet and where you need to be slightly watching. It's a fairly good guidebook, I would say, in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maddie. David, once again, thank you very much. If you have any last comments before we close.
Read the book. Whoever's on this, read it. You won't regret it.
Yeah, that's
Thank
true.
you. Thank you so very much.
Thank Abhi. Thank you so much.
Much appreciated. I will try and respond to all the questions and the comments which are here. I've not been able to do that, but thank you very much indeed.
By the way, I wore this red, Abhijit, for you, so that it's a symbol of energy and uncertainty. And, so it's very symbolic of how I wear this only once a year, and it's a way of saying that the book should be red. The book should be red.
Thank you. The book should be read.
Okay, great.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Abhi. Bye-bye.